So welcome everyone. If this is your first time, welcome to Take Charge Live, our monthly educational series where we go over different topics that are associated with either memory or movement or caregiver support. My name is Cody. I work here as a medical administrator. I wear a lot of hats around here, but this is one of them. If you guys want to go ahead and introduce yourselves and get started.
Sure. My name is Kirsten Gantt, and I am the marketing manager for Charlotte Speech and Hearing Center. I have been with the organization for 8 years, and it's truly just a wonderful place to work. I'll just give a quick overview of what we do and then let Julie introduce herself since she's our expert audiologist. So Charlotte Speech and Hearing is a nonprofit speech, language, and hearing healthcare organization. So we do everything from hearing evaluations to selling hearing aids. And our speech language services are primarily for children who are struggling with difficulties with speech and language development. Typically, just to preface, we get asked a lot if we serve adults for speech language services. And we do like to tell people that we do serve adults typically for fluency, but if it's more severe as a result of a stroke or heart attack, for example, that's a little bit more intensive than what we do at Charlotte Speech and Hearing. And as part of our nonprofit mission, we have programs that serve individuals of all ages and income levels for both hearing and speech language services. And one of the programs we love to talk about, especially in regards to hearing, is our Here to Help program. And that is a sliding fee scale program where we sell hearing aids based on income level. And it really is just an incredible program. There's nothing like it in our area. And the whole purpose is just accessibility and letting more people afford the cost of hearing aids, because that can be a huge barrier for people getting hearing aids that are so greatly needed. And in addition to that, we do a lot of community outreach like this, where we love to speak about hearing healthcare and the importance of taking care of your ears, and also free hearing screening events in the community. So if you have an organization, church group, gym, book club that is interested in doing free hearing screenings, we would love to come out. And now I'll turn it over to Julie.
Hi there. My name is Julie Palazzolo. I have been an audiologist since the 1900s, as the kids like to say it. I got my audiology degree in 1995, so I have worked continuously since then for the betterment of my patients. I've worked in a variety of areas, including private practice, spent many years with ear, nose, and throat doctors, worked at Veterans Administration for a while, and now I continue my role as senior audiologist at Charlotte Speech and Hearing Center, where I've been for about 8.5 years now. So again, I've kind of come into this as someone who wasn't quite so passionate, didn't quite know what I wanted to do once I got to school. But once I kind of saw kind of things that were there and needs that were for the older population, that was immediately what struck me as where I wanted to start my job and keep my career in. So what we're going to do today, I think we've got a couple of questions and things that we're going to go through, but probably what I would like to start with is just give you guys a little oversight or kind of an overall view of what we're talking about when it comes to the ear. If we could just kind of imagine that we shrink ourselves down to the piece of rice size that you're looking at the outside of the ear. And, you know, when people see the outside of the ear, they think that's where the hearing happens. It does not. The hearing is happening inside of your brain and kind of up in this area here. Your outside ear, the pinna area, that's just to kind of focus the sound down the ear canal. So if we can imagine down the canal, at one end, you have you have your eardrum. And that eardrum kind of is like this, and it kind of moves back and forth, just like you'd think a drum when you beat on it would go up and down. This just kind of moves back and forth this way. Behind the eardrum or the tympanic membrane are the 3 smallest bones in your body. So that is your Jeopardy question. Where are the three smallest bones in your body? They are in your middle ear area. And those little bones, the malleus, the incus, and the stapes, they move and articulate with one another. So the malleus attaches itself to the backside of the eardrum, and then the malleus to the incus, they articulate with each other, and then onto the stapes, or the one that is called the stirrup. It looks like a horse stirrup, like you might see on a saddle, but it is sideways. That last bone, the stapes, pushes into the third area, which is called the inner ear, where the cochlea is. So the cochlea is the thing that looks like a snail shell.
I was thinking that in my head. I was like, that's the thing that looks like a snail.
That is the snail shell thing. And so the stapes, the foot plate of the stapes, pushes into the inner ear area, and it starts fluid moving on the inside in there. And inside of there, that fluid starts to move, and there are very teeny tiny little hair cells that are in there. And we call them hair cells, like hair on your head, but they're very microscopic. You would have to be deceased, and then they would have to cut the side of your head open and use a very high power microscope to be able to see those hair cells. But they are in there, and they kind of stand up like bristles on a brush. So if you can imagine what the bristles all in line on a brush, those little ear hairs, those little hair cells, send electrical impulses that go up to the brain. The way they make it up to the brain is through our eighth cranial nerve. So you have 12 cranial nerves in total, and nerve number 8 comes down from the brain and goes down one on each side into that inner ear area. And basically, they kind of plug into the backside of the snail shell. And so those little electronic impulses, those electrical impulses, make little zips and zaps that go up the eighth cranial nerve that make it up into your brain. So if I say a simple word like the word cat, you can imagine my waves of sound come out of my mouth. They are picked up by your ear. They are channeled down your ear canal that goes to your eardrum that moves the drum back and forth. Behind the eardrum are the 3 smallest bones that move and articulate with one another. The last bone pushes into the inner ear area and makes the fluid move that makes zips and zaps out of the hair cells that then send it up all the way up to the brain. And that occurs instantaneously. As I say the word cat, all of those things just happened to reach up here. And then in your brain, it's kind of like opening up a bunch of little file cabinets. When I say the word cat, it is your brain gives you a picture. Maybe you think of a cat that you had when you were younger. Maybe you think about big cats, lions, tigers. Maybe you think about, ooh, cats, don't like cats. Everybody has these mental images that our brain has learned. And then if I ask you to repeat that word back, basically your brain takes that and then sends it back down, telling your lungs to fill up with air, push that air out through your vocal cords. Your vocal cords are moving and hitting back and forth to get the word cat. Your mouth and your lips, everything is making the sounds and making the way that we would form to say C-A-T, cat. So that just kind of gives you like a background of what we're talking about. Inside of that middle ear area, inner ear area, is also your semicircular canals, which are your balance channels. So your balance channels kind of look like roller coaster loop-de-loops. And each roller coaster loop-de-loop is at a slightly different angle or a slightly different degree. So they have on the inside there, they have some fluid, and they also have some crystals in there. So if you've ever heard of anyone saying like, you have your crystals out of whack in your ear, or your balance channels, that's what we're talking about. And so when you're coming in and you're needing care to try to figure out what is going on with your ear, your hearing, your balance, those are all of those systems that we are going to look at to try to figure out what part is having problems, where we need to go, what type of evaluation you need, and then what kind of therapies can be offered depending on where the hearing loss or where the balance issues are happening.
Yeah, so it makes sense. Like when we go swimming and then you come up and you're like, whoa, I'm out of balance. It's like
Correct.
because of the different pressures pushing in
Correct.
the ear, right?
Why do some people like to ride roller coasters? Because those little balance channels are sending crystals back and forth. And for some people, that is a very euphoric type of feeling.
Right.
Oh, wow, I love it. Loop de loops go upside down. Other people look at you and say, absolutely not. That makes me sick to my stomach. I want nothing to do with that. So we just, again, everyone is different in how those channels work, but basic underlying, we all have to have those mechanisms in there working correctly to give us our balance and our hearing.
Also, I just remember because before this, we were talking about the magic school bus. There is a whole episode on the auditory sound wave. Remember that and like the haunted house thing.
Correct. Yes, this
so-
is Frizzle took us there.
Yeah, absolutely. So
Exactly.
go watch that video if you need to go watch on YouTube. So you get all the visuals.
Yes.
But I mean, we're here also to talk about the importance of hearing and balance and all of that, but also how it plays a role in cognition,
Correct.
right? So can you tell us a little bit about the relationship between those two and how those play into each other?
So first thing that I'm going to be doing, or that I would be interested in doing, is having an audiogram performed. So an audiogram is how we describe the test that we do. And basically the audiogram, you're going into a quiet, not totally soundproof, but very sound resistant room. You've got your headphones on, you've got your little buzzer, you're raising your hand when you hear the beep. Because what I want to do is I want to know over all of the different pitches or tones that we're supposed to hear within our human range, from about 250 to about 8,000 hertz. I want to know at what level each one of those you're hearing it at. And when I mean level, I'm talking about the different pitches that are available. So a low pitch tone is going to be something 250 hertz, maybe 500 hertz. It's going to be beep, 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 a very deep kind of beeping tone. They go up in their pitch as you're going. So think about, if you want to think from musical instruments, from a drum to a violin, or if you want to think about going from, kind of bass to treble, if you're a old stereophile, audiophile, and you're thinking about that, you could think about also the graphic equalizer that people would have had on their stereo systems back in the day, where you could tone up more bass tone and maybe tone up more high-pitched treble tone, and maybe the mids you would bring down. So that's what I'm looking at. I look at all of those pitches and tones, and then where you fall, how loud or soft that had to be before you would respond to it. And so the plot that we make is called the audiogram, and that gives us a ton of information. It is very common when people come in, they will say, oh, I hear great men in my life.
Mhm.
Men tend to have a more bass or baritone voice. Sometimes they'll come in and they'll say, women or children that have a very squeaky voice are harder for me to understand. And we've all encountered people within our lives that have a real deep bass tone voice, and maybe someone who is very squeaky, like a Betty Boop almost. So that range can happen. And so what I'm trying to do is just figure out where you hear all of those and then plot that on our audiogram. Once we have that basic information, then I can turn to that person and kind of give them an idea of where all of the different pitches or tones of our English language fall. So if you think about a sound like S or F, those are going to be higher pitch sounds. A P sound, a B sound will be a little bit more on the lower bass end. So that helps me know kind of where they're struggling. And then also I'm going to do in my testing a series of words where I'm going to have that person repeat back to me so that I can decide at what levels they hear optimally, and then where we need to try to improve if necessary with a hearing aid for them. When you're talking about that cognition and the hearing loss and all of that coming together, that is where kind of we really put it to the test. because I know that as someone is losing hearing, I know that we are losing some of that clarity or distinction. And so I'm trying to figure out whether it's just a volume issue that we're having, or if we do get louder, but they still have a difficulty distinguishing or understanding those words, that can let me know that there are more issues going on within the nerve and that in the head, in the brain. So there's where we're trying to figure out kind of where the hearing loss is, what type of hearing loss it is, and then kind of coming at it, what can we do? I know from experience that as you develop hearing loss, the further the hearing loss goes, the more difficult it becomes to hear some of those simple words. You have to get the volume louder and louder. And then I also know that as the hearing loss increases, so as your hearing loss gets worse, we also run the risk of having increased balance issues. The balance channels or the balance center is right next to the inner ear area. And so when you're putting in so much energy by trying to hear what someone is saying, by putting in the mental load of trying to distinguish words or phrases, you have to give some energy from someplace else. And typically the balance channels, balance center is right next. And so what happens is someone who has untreated hearing loss also has an increased risk of having more fall and having more fall risk, just because they're kind of putting that system under kind of a little more strain than what is needed. So that's where the getting a hearing aid, getting the hearing loss treated, all of that becomes extremely important so that we're not putting any more stress on that balance system for them.
That makes perfect sense. So it's kind of like if you don't use it, you lose it kind of idea.
Correct. And you have to have a balance there, that if you are devoting all of your brain power and energy towards trying to hear something or figure out what's being said, your brain doesn't have enough extra brain power to remind your foot to pick itself up a little bit more, and you end up tripping over a rug, or you end up not seeing something and you trip. So study after study has shown this. Many years ago, there was a very huge study that was done through Johns Hopkins, and basically it just looked at where hearing loss, and as the hearing loss got worse for people, their fall risk went up exponentially. And it was just because of that cognitive load that you're carrying as you're trying to listen, hear, focus. What did you say? I didn't hear that. And my brain power is over here, and just not paying attention to other areas.
Yeah, you mentioned about the areas, right? I feel like it's even outside of the cognition, there's so many other areas that hearing loss impacts.
Correct.
Right? Like socially, like how would that impact someone socially?
Correct. So one of the side effects, or one of the things that we see when someone comes in with hearing loss, one of the questionnaires and things that I do is just, how is this impacting your life? And it's just basic questions. Are you avoiding going to church services because you can't hear and it's not giving you pleasure, not meeting your needs? Are you staying home? I spoke to a lady earlier today, and that was her statement was, I don't go to an event at the senior center because I cannot hear there anymore. And it was an event that when she asked, it was basically, it's a chair volleyball type thing. And I was, oh, well, tell me about it. And I mean, her face just lit up telling me, but she said, I don't go to that anymore because I can't hear. And I just immediately said, stop. We are going to fix the hearing problem so that you can go back, because clearly this is something that you enjoy, that you're staying at home for no reason except for the hearing loss. So those are the kind of things that you encounter, is that someone will say, I don't go to church services anymore. I'm staying at home. I'm isolated. I don't even like to get together with family because I try to hear what the grandkids are saying, and it just sounds like Charlie Brown's school teacher talking to me, and I don't get the clarity. And and again, even this lady, she said, sometimes in church I don't hear, and everybody laughs, and clearly there's something, and I just look around and then I laugh a little too. Yeah. And I said, so you're still going to church, but you're not getting you're not getting what you want out of it. And she said, no, I'm not getting what I want. And I said, you are exactly where I need you to be so that we can get you a hearing aid and then give you that help so that you can re-enter, do those things that make you happy in life, things that keep you vibrant, all of that.
Right. So, all of that is so important. And then you also earlier mentioned about treatment options, right? So what options are there in society now, in science now, to help with hearing loss?
So that is a great question. Like everything in our world, technology and hearing aids is going at 60 miles an hour. Yes, the amount of technology that come on, basically what I say to someone is that these hearing aids are not your grandfather's hearing aids. When I start to talk to patients, and I tell them about the features, I talk about Bluetooth with them. So basically the same Bluetooth that you have on your phone, your hearing aids have Bluetooth within them that can be connected through your smartphone. So anything that you have on your smartphone, whether it's auditory stuff, whether it's a podcast you want to listen to, whether it's church devotionals, church services, audiobooks, whatever, all of that can be streamed from your phone or your tablet or your computer right into your hearing aids.
It's like a lot more expensive AirPod.
Yeah, correct. So basically when I talk to people, I will say, your hearing aids will be hearing aids when you need them to be, but then when you want them to be grandpa pods or grandma pods, they will be grandma and grandpa pods, and you will be able to stream all of that stuff that the young people do. And then when you're done with that, they go right back to being hearing aids. But they stream phone calls. You're driving in your car, you can stream the audio from the directions, you can listen to podcasts, whatever,
right,
as you're walking through the neighborhood. And all of it too, a lot of it is hands-free now. So you no longer have to have your phone in your hand or talking on speakerphone or anything. You can keep your phone in your pocket. You can, keep your phone attached to your belt clip, whatever you like, and walk and use that and keep talking, whatever you're doing. So
it's so interesting because I was at the park the other day and there was this woman who was just walking through the park with her purse like this, just walking casually, talking out loud. And I just assumed, I was like, oh, maybe she's like just talking through the loud, but she could have been having her hearing aids in, talking to her. You never know.
Yeah. And with most of them, you don't even have to take it out of your purse. So she literally could have just carried her purse walking and you would not even know that this individual was on a phone call or whatever. So the technology is there, and it's all, again, in our smartphone that we already carry with us. The newer stuff that's coming out is something called Auracast. And Auracast is going to make connecting to Bluetooth devices even easier for us. So the technology is just starting to roll out for Auracast. But the idea is that instead of having to pair devices together, which basically, if you're familiar with any kind of Bluetooth, you have to put something in a Bluetooth mode, and then you have to put your hearing aids in a Bluetooth pairing mode. Auracast is going to make it be even easier. So let's pretend we are sitting at the airport and we're over at Charlotte Douglas and we're at gate D12 and we're sitting there waiting for our flight. Instead of trying to hear the lady up there who's giving, now we're boarding for this, we're doing this, and everyone's going, what is that woman saying? I can't understand. You could have got to that gate, gone up, there will be a QR code that's right there. You pull out your phone, QR code, and now you are connected to gate D12.
Wow.
So when there are items that are coming over, when she's giving you instructions or saying, we're now boarding for this, we're doing this, I need to see this person come up to the stand, you just sit there and you're just still reading your book or flipping through your phone, just whatever. You hear all of those messages through your hearing aids. So again, it's going to make that connection that much easier. You're also going to have, say we go to that sports bar and we want to go watch the Panthers game. I'm not sure why, but we would want to watch the Panthers game. This is our year. This is our year.
Every year is our year.
Every year is our year. We are going for it this year. Come on, Bryce Young. But let's say we go into that sports bar and you say, gosh, I really want to watch that game up there. Now, this happens to be one of those sports bars that, maybe is fond of watching the Giants or watching the Buffalo Bills or whatever. And you think, oh, I don't really want to see that, but I want to watch my Panther game. There's going to be a QR code that you would be able to QR code in, and then you would get that audio feed from that television, even though there might be 30 other televisions around you in the sports bar. But all you need is that QR code, your smartphone, go up, blink, and then now the audio from TV number 27 that's up on the wall there is powering into your hearing aids. And you are just sitting there going, I'm so thankful I don't have to listen to this god awful, whatever team you don't like fans. Now you could just focus on your Panthers game.
I love that.
So that's the type of technology that's coming out. It is not 100% there yet. And it has to be. The difficult thing is going to be getting the televisions that will be Auracast ready. All of the hearing aids that we have now and all the manufacturers have now, everything is Auracast ready. But again, you're missing the key link between the televisions and things like that, that once things start getting, traded over, new buildings, new sports bars, you'll probably start to see that kind of technology coming in. So, yes.
I wanted to add one thing. Julie is phenomenal, first off. And the technology for hearing aids can be incredibly overwhelming for a lot of our patients. And she does such an incredible job of walking you through all of the technology, how to use it. She'll pair your phone with your hearing aids and get you set up and ready to go, teach you how to use the app so you can adjust your hearing aids on your phone. We hear a lot of patients come in and they're a little overwhelmed by all of the options. And she does just an awesome job of making it simpler and making sure you know exactly how to use your hearing aids.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I try to subscribe that if someone is willing to put in the time to learn, because many people will come in and it is not something that I would just say, oh, well, that's, older folks come in and they don't know how to use their phone. I see plenty of younger folks who come in that are just like, I don't know, I just have this phone, it does stuff, I don't know. I am more than happy to teach people and meet them where they're at. So again, I tell people, maybe we need to start slow and maybe we just need to get you going on the app first and we teach you how to do that. Or maybe we just do the Bluetooth connection before we go on to apps and other things. That way, if it's something that I think is going to be beneficial and helpful to someone, I want you to have that technology. Lady this morning, she said, I'm in the process of getting a new phone. I said, we'll make you an appointment so that when you come back, I will reset everything up, take your old phone and reset it up on your new iPhone. And she just, okay. She would struggle with that. She would struggle with trying to figure out how to get her hearing aids, but it's a very important connection to her.
Sure.
And she said, I use that every day. So the thought of not having it, and I said, oh, no. We'll put it on we will put it on your new phone and we'll give you a little tutorial.
You're like the hearing aid superhero.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes, I try to just make sure. Some patients, they don't want it, and that is perfectly fine. But if someone says, I am interested in this technology, or I think I can make this work, then by all means, we will do it.
And a lot of times you can't even see the hearing aids anymore.
No.
Right.
Because they're so microscopic. I mean, literally,
Yes.
you can't even see them. So you don't even know that people are wearing them.
Yep. So, a lot of times you're getting something, it goes behind the ear. There's a skinny little wire that comes down to a little receiver that goes down in the ear. So again, more often than not, I tell people, again, this is not your grandfather's hearing aid. It is not big. It is not ugly. It is not Band-Aid beige. We make it so that it is appropriate. If you want your hair color, you can get your hair color. You want it to match your eyeglasses. You want it to match your skin color. You tell me what's most important to you. And then that's what we will go for.
That's awesome.
If it's blending in and not being seen, we will blend and make it seen.
That is so cool. I didn't even know there was that many customized options.
Yes. Yeah.
It really is
very, very. Yeah.
That's so cool. One of the other things with hearing aids that we hear all the time is cost.
Correct.
Right. And so we know that a lot of times insurance doesn't cover, right, the hearing aids. And so talk to us about cost and what options are available through you guys. I know you mentioned the sliding scale earlier, but what other options there are around financial assistance for that?
So we are very lucky at Charlotte Speech and Hearing Center that we have so many partners that we work with. And in Charlotte, we have a wonderful community that is very giving. And I know you guys know that as well too. And so we have an awful lot of partners that know what we do. We've been there for 58 years, almost 59 years now. And so they know we're not going anyplace, and they know what we do just because of our history. And they know that we are a trusted resource within the Charlotte area. So when it comes to grants and proposals and things, they definitely know that when they come and they see us, those patients are being taken care of and treated appropriately. And so what I usually have to do with someone is we have to figure out what are going to be the best options for them. If money was no option, no obstacle, this is what we would get. However, for most of us, that's not how life goes.
What is the average cost now of like a hearing aid?
So typically hearing aids are going to be anywhere from about $2,500 to upwards of $6,000.
Wow.
Now, I know for a fact that as I meet people that come into my office, I had someone a week or two ago that was quoted $4,200 each hearing aid.
Wow.
Oh my gosh.
And each ear. Each ear. And I absolutely looked at them and said, absolutely not. Run, don't walk, run. And I said, and I also need you to instruct all of your friends that is not an appropriate amount. Every audiologist we are all independent providers. So many people own their own businesses. Some people are associated with their own private practice. Some people are associated with ear, nose, and throat practices. And so everyone is allowed in our society and in our world, everyone is allowed to charge what is appropriate in their area for something. So basically, I just tell patients, you need to go and get a couple of basic price quotes. Look around. Don't just take the first thing that someone tells you. Do your research. Look at the type of hearing aid. Are they recommending something that is brand new and the state of the art? And maybe it's a 90-year-old person that stays home and just wants to be able to watch The Price is Right every day and maybe, a couple other game shows. They may not need the top of the line hearing aid that has all the bells and whistles and cuts out all the background noise and, where you might come in and I might say, this is more appropriate for you because this is going to be right where you are, where your life is, where your lifestyle, you're going out, you're working, you're active, you're going out to restaurants, you have friends, you're going out and participating. That 90-year-old person, they're spending a lot of their time at home. So sometimes we have to have those conversations of get what is appropriate for where you are. Sometimes, again, we have to pare things down just because people cannot afford something. But as Kirsten was saying, our sliding scale program takes a lot of that away for patients because when they come in and then we start talking about what is available on our sliding scale program, and more often than not, I'll say, typically patients are going to get, maybe a 20 to 30, 40% discount off of retail cost of hearing aids. And people just look at me and, well, how can you do that? And I'm like, that's because of the partners that we have.
Because of our great donors.
Because of our great donors.
That's when you look at the camera. Thank you.
Exactly. That's where you look. And I love them and I appreciate them every day. And, again, I always tell my patients, you may not know who they are or the corporations. And a lot of times, again, it's relegated to the last 1 minute of the newscast where they say, today, such and such foundation raised money. Those are the type of groups that are raising money that are supporting us as nonprofits. And I feel really sad that they only get the last 30 seconds of a news broadcast. But again, it's not, sometimes it's not the most exciting thing that you're doing, but it is necessary and it is something that we need to help those around us with. I just personally believe that everybody has that right to have speech and hearing and to not be held back by that. And if I can do anything within my power to make sure that people have access to good fitting hearing aids and correctly programmed and all of the services that they need, and again, they get it done within their budget, I'm a happy girl.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
that's good.
Yeah, and we serve all patients, all ages, all income levels, like I mentioned before. So one unique thing additionally is that if you do have the finances to be able to afford hearing aids and you don't qualify for our sliding fee scale program, we still will provide you a fantastic set of hearing aids at a very reasonable cost. That's not $4,200 per ear. And your patronage supports our programs for individuals who can't afford the cost of hearing aids. Because we're a nonprofit, all of our profits go back into the sliding fee scale program and our speech language therapy programs. Julie didn't also talk about our one of the things that I think is unique to us, in addition to our sliding fee scale, is that we'll work with you however we can to make sure you can afford the cost of hearing aids. And many individuals who qualify for our sliding fee scale also qualify for the North Carolina TQuil program to get one hearing aid for free. One hearing aid for one ear, completely free. And Julie helps our patients through that application process and walks people through that, which no one else seems to do. So I think that's really special about her and helping people have access to care.
Well, I mean, hey, if that saves you $2,000,
Yes.
yeah, then that's $2,000. Hey,
Yeah,
exactly.
Especially in this economy, hey, count every dollar.
And again, I always tell people we're gonna try. I try to take the burden off of you as the person coming in. I say, look, I'm going to come up with creative ways to try to get you the hearing aids you need. Let me work on my end. You just tell me what you need, where I need to try to meet you at. So, and again, as we were just talking about, like some of the, cognition things and all of that, one of the studies I was just thinking about that people may want to go look up, it was called the Achieve study. And it was just done over the past couple of years, and it was funded, and a lot of the hearing aid manufacturers were in on it. There are 6 major hearing aid manufacturers in the US. But in that survey, in that study, they had about 1,000 participants, and they were looking at untreated hearing loss versus treated hearing loss. And the assistance that it gave for those individuals when it came to balance and when it came to cognition. And those people that were treated, had the treated hearing loss, did almost 50% better on all of the testing that they did, cognitive testing that they did on those individuals, than the people who did not wear a hearing aid at all. So it just basically, it showed that keeping people active, keeping them involved, keeping them basically hearing and participating with their communities and their families and all of that, kept those individuals right where they needed to be cognitively. And again, I get nervous when we talk about some of those things, because I don't want people to say there is a direct line between, a hearing aid, and if you don't wear a hearing aid, you will end up with Alzheimer's disease. Like, there is no direct correlation between those two. And sometimes you will see people talking about that. You will see fear mongers that will throw that out there. If you don't get a hearing aid today, you will have Alzheimer's. There are plenty of studies that have shown that cognition does improve when you are fit with correct hearing aids and when you are using them. And also, for most people, that involves them using that hearing aid consistently and having someone who helps them along that journey. A hearing aid is not like your Maytag, where you never see the Maytag man. So the hearing aid, you have to have a partner. You have to have somebody who is there with you, boots on the ground, who, when you call them on a Thursday and say, oh no, I've got a big family wedding this weekend and my hearing aid just went out on me this morning, you have to have someone that is going to say, okay, let's figure this out. Can you come in? Can we do this? What can we do? Can we talk you through things over the phone? What can we do to help you so that you're not going to miss out on this event this weekend.
Yeah, absolutely. It reminds me, and my grandma is not watching this, so I'm going to say this. But my grandma, she literally took her hearing aids from her sister because she thought, oh, they're expensive. I'm just going to borrow them. I'm just going to put them on in,
Yes.
right? They don't fit her. The sound is not connected. And she's like, why is this not working? So she'll put them in and out, in and out. And we know that that's not an effective use, right? And also understanding that is not going to help.
No. Grandma needs a partner on her hearing loss
She
journey.
needs Charlotte's speech and hearing.
She does.
I will make it.
Thank you.
If she is local, you send her my way, and I will try to steer her on the path and get her back. And but yes, you do need to have somebody, and I say that all the time to patients. I will say, you and I will be on a journey for many years together. I will be your audiologist. I will know more. I will know so many things about you. I will help you in so many ways. So if you just look at me and say, I don't like this lady, then maybe you need to find a different audiologist, because you need that person who is with you, who can answer questions. And even my patients that I have known for years will come in, and I had someone not too long ago and I showed her something, and then she said, I know you've shown that to me before. And I can't, believe I didn't remember that about that. And she's a wonderful woman. She just forgot one of the simple things about cleaning and then said, oh, yeah, thank you for reminding me that. So you have to have somebody that you can work with, that is accessible to you, that's going to be there for you as you go through this.
For sure. It's like any clinician, right?
Absolutely.
You have to have a good relationship with them to make it successful.
Correct.
Right.
And so that's one of the things that I say is say just, you are going to know a little bit about me. I'm going to know a little bit about you. Hopefully we can be friends, and we can get through all of this. And if you're having a struggle with something, I need you to just be as honest as you can and tell me, so that I can try to figure out how I can help you on this journey. So
well, that's perfect. I know we are right at the 5:16 mark.
Okay.
So we ended a little bit perfectly there.
Yeah.
So we will open it up for questions. So if there's any questions, like I mentioned earlier, if you are over Zoom, you're more than welcome to drop that into the chat, or you can come off mute if you have any questions, or if you're in the audience here and have any questions for our audiologist, then let us have it.
Bunches. Talk about how the hearing input into the brain helps. Like if you're lacking input to the auditory cortex, and you get the hearing aid, how does that affect that input, and what happens if you don't get that in here?
So the question had to do with auditory input kind of into the brain. So when you it falls into that, if you don't use it, you lose it.
Right.
So we want to keep the auditory system stimulated as much as possible. And that means by getting sound coming into those ears and making its way through all of those channels and getting up to the brain. And so again, when you do not use that system and you let it go dormant, it is not getting any exercise. It's just like anything else on your body. It needs to be getting stimulated. It needs to get exercise. You need to be putting it through its paces. Now, many people will go for years and their hearing gets lower and lower and lower very slowly over time. And so in those cases, again, I will explain to someone that we're going to give them back hearing, but I'm also going to probably have to gradually kind of increase them back into the world of the hearing, because I can't just give it all back. They will not like it. They will just say, this is too overstimulating. I'm hearing too much. I hear everything. So sometimes we have to be gradual with it, to give that person's brain. Your brain is smart and your brain has a lot of plasticity to it. And just, as you age, yes, we lose a little bit of that plasticity, but it is still there. And sometimes it may take us a little bit longer to get you to plateau up to where I need you to be. But I always work with people to try to make sure that we get as much out of our hearing aid as we possibly can.
If you have unilateral hearing loss, is it just as important? Do you still, when one ear you hear, are you getting enough input to the auditory cortex, or you're lacking that one area from the opposite ear?
So when the question is, when you have a unilateral hearing loss, meaning that you just have hearing loss on one side, the other side either hears perfectly fine or has maybe a little bit of a loss to it. In that situation, the side that does not get the stimulus to it, we have a couple of different things we can do hearing aid wise. If there is any ability to get some stimulus to it, I always try to get some stimulus to it. So even if that ear has a severe loss, but it still gets some sound going through, I definitely try that. There is such a thing called a cross hearing aid. It's called CROS, which stands for contralateral routing of signal, which is basically saying taking a signal or a sound that comes in on this side and routing it over to an earpiece that you wear on your quote good ear. And believe it or not, there's just a little bit of a delay between their milliseconds, but your brain will learn to pick up when sound is coming from that side where you have no hearing just by hearing that slight little auditory delay there. So for some individuals, the cross hearing aid is a godsend because it gives them back some of that basically sound perception, that they miss because they're not getting auditory stimulus or auditory input coming on that bad side. So cross hearing aid can be super helpful.
Okay. Anybody online? Oh, there's a question that just came in. You often see ads for low dollar devices that do nothing but amplify sound.
It's true.
Are there any times when the audiogram could guide someone in that direction?
So over the last couple of years, we have seen what we call over-the-counter or OTC hearing aids. And basically, the government opened it up and said anybody could make a hearing aid and didn't have to go through a lot of testing. All of the hearing aids come from, all the hearing aid manufacturers have to go through FDA testing and be verified that they're doing what they say they do. Over-the-counter hearing aids, they basically just opened it up and said, you can't call it a hearing aid, but you can call it an amplifier or an auditory device or something like that, but you cannot, you can sell it on eBay, you can sell it on Amazon, you can sell it in the grocery store if you want to, CVS, Walgreens, like Best Buy. You can buy a hearing aid at Best Buy. You can get a big screen TV and a hearing aid. Yeah. They opened that up, which was great for consumers. The idea was that as a consumer, they wanted you to have more options than just some place that was going to charge you $8,000 or $10,000 for hearing aids. So from that perspective, yes, I like that. However, it opened it up to everybody under the sun saying, we're going to make a hearing aid and try to get in on this $1 million that is, out there. And so unfortunately, there's plenty of people who have bought little devices that were not helpful to them, were not particularly easy to manipulate. They were not custom to them. They didn't know how to put it in their ear. They didn't know how to connect it. Excuse me. They spent a fair amount of money, but they didn't really get what they needed. And so a lot of times, again, I will have to look at someone and say, you really need an audiologist. You need somebody in your court who is helping you work your way through this, whether it's through the software, whether it's through helping you learning how to get something in and out of your ear, learning how to connect it, making sure that the audiogram is correct, and then programming it into the way that you need it to be programmed. So I say that to people, you do need that help. You need that audiologist or a hearing provider that is going to be able to help you on that journey.
Aren't most of the 99 professionals that are online and everything, aren't they more amplifiers and they're not hearing aids per se?
Correct.
Yes.
Many of them are an amplifier that is just set at a certain volume level. Again, the government said as long as it is designed to meet a mild to moderate hearing loss, it is appropriate, and usually they are set at a very flat loss, and most people have a very kind of steeply sloping loss. Most people are doing pretty good in their bass tone and in their high pitch, and these over-the-counter things, a lot of them are just set at a flat level. And again, when people will put them in their ear, many of them, they'll come back and say, this doesn't help me, or it amplifies everything and not what I want to hear. It's just a whole mishmash.
That
You
kind of
have 90 days to read.
Correct.
Yes,
Return them.
that
Get your
Return
money
them.
back. Get your money back.
Yes.
Do not waste your money. But I see people every day that come in and they will pull out 3 or 4 packages of stuff. And I just sit there and I think, and I don't even want to know how much they've spent on it. And I'll say, you could have come to see me. I could have helped you with one of our programs and we could have spent less than what you have spent on this menagerie that you have just shown me that did absolutely nothing for you.
It reminds me of one of those old cartoons with a big horn in the ear.
Yes.
It's pretty much what that's
Yes,
doing.
yeah, exactly.
Is that what your grandmother uses?
Yeah, absolutely. She borrowed it from her sister.
I always tell people I have a couple of different options for you, and I will say, we can get a hearing aid and it's going to be correctly fit and all this. Or I have the option that I can get you a parrot that sits on your shoulder
Oh my gosh.
and it will squawk everything into your ear. And the only thing you have to do is feed the parrot, take care of the parrot, pay the
You're
parrot.
gonna pay the same.
Whatever. So which is it going to be? Do you want a parrot on your shoulder like a pirate squawking into your ear all day? Or will you just let me put my beautiful fit hearing aid
That nobody will know.
that nobody will
Yeah.
know exists
Yeah.
in there? And usually they'll see it my way.
Yeah, I can imagine. 2 more questions in here. My mother's hearing test revealed that she can't hear certain sounds like the sh sound.
Yep.
Does that mean that when she is not wearing her hearing aids, turning the volume up on the TV won't help? That she still won't be able to hear those sounds?
So that SH sound is in the higher pitch or the higher frequency range. And so that is definitely,
You sit on it?
I think I said on.
that is definitely in the high pitch or the high frequency range. And so when you are not wearing your hearing aids that are appropriately fit to bring up and boost up those high pitch or high frequency, if you're just turning up the volume, you're just basically taking volume and just raising it up. So yes, you will get a little bit more there, but also you're going to get a whole bunch of bass tone as well too. And then you're going to drive everyone else crazy in the house because now they're going to say the television is too loud. You're blaring the ears on my side. I need you to turn it down. And then the individual again just says, well, now I can't hear it and understand it. So,
Right.
so definitely the correct fitting hearing aids and wearing them appropriately. In all of my fittings, one of the manufacturers we use, all of them actually, they have a data log in them that basically is, I can tell how much you've been having the hearing aid turned on. Now it does
Battling on you.
It does not tell me who you're talking to, where you're wearing it. It's not spying on you.
Right.
But it gives me some basic information like you're wearing it 12 hours a day. And I go, oh, great, you're wearing it 12 hours a day. So when someone comes in and says, oh, I've been wearing this every day, and I look and I think, it's got 1 hour. So you've been wearing it for 1 hour every day. That's not an appropriate use. You need to be putting it through its paces and wearing it. I know you're awake and you're interacting with people more than
1 hour. Yeah, absolutely. Well, at least you should.
Yes.
So another question. I'm on my 3rd set of aids, starting with an in the ear set now. I have behind in the ear and I have a cross in my right ear.
Okay.
If you have Medicare, you may qualify for substantial discounts. Excellent program. Thank you.
Yep. Yes. So,
Thank you for memory and movement. You're doing a great job with this presentation. I lost my hearing almost completely in my left ear, and we don't know why, but I did go through chemo treatments for cancer, and there's some connection with that. And I couldn't hear a thing out of my left ear. I had an in the ear, and then I had another one behind the ear, but now I'm on my 3rd set and I'm extremely happy with them. And, it's changed my life. Thank you.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
Oh, that's good.
He brings up an excellent point is that unfortunately, many of the chemotherapy agents that are very popular that are in use right now and used for a variety of cancers. They can be head and neck cancers, they can be bladder, they can be uterine cancers, they can be testicular cancers. One of the most common agents used is cisplatin, and it is a platinum-based agent that is used, but in higher doses, it is very ototoxic. And so routinely, I will have an individual come in that is just starting a chemotherapy routine, and their oncologist will recommend that they have a baseline test, basically saying to know where they are. And then they want to make sure if that individual going through treatment has any change in their hearing, they can make changes to that cocktail, to the amount that they're getting, maybe space out the treatments a little bit more. If they realize that someone is losing hearing, having hearing issues. So it is one of those things that anyone who is going through cancer, I strongly recommend that you speak with your oncologist and have them, give you a rundown of those medications and then ask those side effects that are there. And then again, I see people all the time that come in that will say, I'm starting this, I'm not anticipating anything, but I have bladder cancer and this is part of my treatment. And I'll say, yep, I am very familiar with it. And we monitor them over the course of time while they are getting that treatment. And then typically, maybe 6 months or a year after treatment, just to make sure that that individual still has stayed at that level and they've had no lingering effects from that chemotherapy agent. Yeah.
The more you know every day.
Yeah.
And chemotherapy agent was created at Michigan State University, which is where I went to school.
He's very proud.
Another trivia question.
Trivia question, where was that chemo?
Michigan State.
Michigan State.
Spartan.
A Spartan. Through and
Through. I knew you were gonna say that.
A Spartan.
We do have one more question, and we're at the end of our program, but I want to get this thing because I think it's important. Can you discuss how you transition potentially from a hearing aid to a cochlear implant?
Yes. So once someone has basically exhausted what can be done with a hearing aid, the criteria has been changing lately and trying to kind of bring people into the cochlear implant a little bit sooner. So just to go back a step, the cochlear implant is an electronic implant that is done under surgery. Basically what happens is a small little magnet is put in under the skin. They kind of bore out a little bit of an area in the mastoid bone back here. The surgeon takes a small little electrode and runs that through into the snail shell cochlea. And so the stimulus goes in through that implant and then through that magnet that's on the side. The individual still wears something that looks like a hearing aid and it processes the sound. Many people, years ago, it used to be a very scary prospect to have that type of surgery. And when I was a graduate student many years ago, I got the opportunity to go to the University of Michigan and see one of the premier ear surgeons do that surgery. And it was scary and brutal to see that surgery being done. Now it is something that is done on an outpatient. It is literally something that they do on a Monday, and by Monday night or Tuesday, you're going back home. They put the implant in, and then you have to go through a whole series of basically mapping out all the different sounds and kind of learning to hear again. Excuse me. Prior to, we look at what your audiogram is, and as you've got to a point where you are under 60% word understanding or word discrimination, those individuals are very good candidates for the implant. And so again, that's why the testing done at the audiologist is so important, or through the ear, nose, and throat, is because if you just go someplace that's just trying to sell you a hearing aid, they are going to just do enough testing to give you a hearing aid and sell you that unit. You need to have a good, accurate test done, and you need to have speech testing done, and you need to have air testing done and bone testing done, and this word understanding and discrimination, so that we get a really full picture to know exactly what part of the system is having the difficulty, and then again, lay out all of your options in front front of you. I have friends who have had the cochlear implant. That gentleman, he is doing great with it.
Good.
He struggled for years with hearing aids and getting enough volume, getting enough clarity. And I remember talking to him on the phone. It was probably 8 or 9 years ago when he got the implant. And he called me one night and he said, I got to run a bunch of things past you. And we talked for an hour or two on the phone. And he said, I know I'm going to get this done, but it still makes me really nervous. But now when I see him, he just laughs and says, why did you why didn't you tell me get this done sooner? Because he had so much more life with that. And so again, it just really improves that speech understanding and those abilities that people with such a severe, profound loss have struggled with for years.
That makes sense.
Yeah. And we are also very lucky now that we have a couple of very excellent implant surgeons in Charlotte now. Years ago, you used to have to tell someone that, they needed to go to Chapel Hill or they needed to go to Baptist. And now those are services that are provided in Charlotte. And we have excellent surgeons that provide those services. Plus, we have, through one of the manufacturers, we have a local rep who lives in Charlotte who is willing to meet with people over Zoom or in person or whatever. And I probably connect patients with her at least once or twice a month. I email her and I connect a patient of mine, and sometimes nothing comes of it. It's just information gathering. But I always tell my patients, I want you to do your due diligence so that you're not stuck with your back up against a wall if something happens and you suddenly lose some hearing. I want you to have investigated what these procedures are and if that is something you would consider.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense.
Yep.
And you guys will make your referral from your office to get it?
Yep,
Okay,
I do.
perfect.
I make those referrals a couple of times a month, yes.
Wonderful. Well, thank you both so much for your knowledge and for your
Thank
time
you.
today. And then how can people find you guys? How can people get to your office, make an appointment, all that?
Sure.
Oh, yeah, I can chime in.
Go ahead.
So the best way to schedule an appointment, and for hearing services, you do not need a physician referral. You can self-refer and just call and schedule an appointment. You can give us a call. Our phone number is 704-523-8027. And our website has lots of information about our services and everything that we do. And that is charlottespeechhearing.com.
Yep.
Perfect.
And I have a wonderful patient care coordinator. Her name is Juanita. And Juanita, I love her dearly. She knows all of my patients. They all call, they talk to her directly. And I know just from patients that they will say, especially when they have hearing loss, they don't want to have to tell their story over and over to someone at the front desk who then transfers them to another person or this to the. And so I tell them, when you call, you are going to call, you're going to talk to Juanita, you tell everything to Juanita, and then she will relay it to me, and you're only going to see her and I. You're not going to have 30 other people that might get involved with your treatment.
That's wonderful.
Yeah. I like to make sure that patients understand that you're going to see me and we're going to take care of you to the best of our ability.
And you're going to be besties.
Yep, we're going to be besties.
And it's always nice to get real people.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
I have a young man. He is now, I think he's either a junior or senior in high school, and I've known him for 8.5 years. I have hugged his mother and I have said, when he walks across the stage at Bojangles Coliseum and he gets his degree from Charlotte Mecklenburg Schools, I will be standing right there next to you, Mama, and we will be hugging and crying that we have done it and we have got this boy through. And she says, I always refer to you as his other mother because you have done everything to help my child with his hearing journey. So
Well, that speaks to the relationship that you have with your
I do.
patients.
I
Yeah.
do. I love my patients, and yeah,
It sure does.
it really truly does. When I graduated, my mother gave me the most infinite wisdom and said, treat every patient like that is your mother, father, aunt, uncle,
That's right.
because they are someone's mother, father, aunt, uncle, and you would
Definitely.
not want anyone to treat any member of your family. And so therefore, just that is your guiding light and your guiding principle. And at that point in my life, I probably rolled my eyes at my mother and probably thought,
Everybody's done that once or twice.
But
Yeah.
I look back and I go, oh gosh, she was right. She was right.
Well, thank you guys again, and
We
thank you for
appreciate
that
it.
wisdom and
Yep, thank you,
everything.
thank you.
And that is the conclusion of our, what month is it? August Take Charge Live. We'll see you next time.
Thank
Bye-bye.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.